Go, 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 gorilla, go, now, go, 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 gorilla, go, now, go. Okay, I just could not wait to tell you guys this, man. I know you're gonna love it. The other day, I was out walking in the woods and my phone rang, and I picked it up, and it was my best friend Jim. And Jim lives in Cucamonga, California. And he says that he was going on a trip to go surfing in Hawaii, and he'd asked me if I would come by and babysit his animals. I'm thinking I don't have anything else to do. I'll be in California. I'll be on the beach. It's going to be so much fun. And I told him, sure, man, I'll do it. Well, the next day I get up, I get on my plane, I fly to California. Jim meets me at the airport, and he says, you're going to have this easy. He says, but I do want to warn you ahead of time. I just got a new pet. I got him from the circus. He's super smart, but there's one rule. Never, ever, ever, never touch him. Like, fine with me. So we get to his house and he shows me around. He's got toucans. So I got to feed the toucans nuts. He's got dogs and he's got cats. So I have to feed them dog and cat food. I go downstairs, and once I get down there, there's this huge cage. And inside of this cage is the biggest, smelliest, nastiest gorilla you have ever seen in your life. And Jim told me, he says, don't forget now, don't touch him. And then he goes, oh, by the way, his name is Bob. I'm like, okay, man, I got this. So the next day I woke up and I got up, I had a cup of coffee, I go in there and I get nuts and feed the birds. I get dog and cat food and I feed the dogs and the cats. I go downstairs to feed Bob. And when I get down there, Bob is right up by the cage like that. So I scoop up the food, I pour it in his cage, and as soon as I did that, he goes... And when he did, there was gorilla snot and boogers and everything just running all down my shirt. It was disgusting. So the next day, I get up, I feed the birds, I feed the dogs, I feed the cats, I go downstairs to feed Bob. I scoop up his food, and when I scoop it up, I look down, and there's a piece of plexiglass. And I'm like, I got this. He's not going to slobber me this time. So I get the glass, I get the scoop of food, I pour the food in, and I go, ha ha, you missed me. As soon as I lowered the glass, he snotted and boogered me again. I'm like, this has got to stop. So anyway, I wake up, it's my last day of taking care of the animals. I get up, I feed the birds, I feed the dogs, I feed the cats. I go down in the basement to feed Bob, but it's different today. When I get downstairs, Bob is standing there with his hand up like this. And I'm thinking, cool, man. After 2 days, he's my friend. I says, we finally got somewhere here. So I got the food. I poured it in. Bob was still standing there with his hand up. I'm thinking, all right, we're friends. I said, what's up, Bob? As soon as I touched Bob's hand, he went crazy. And he grabbed a hold of the bars and he started pulling and pulling and pulling. And finally the door fell on the floor. I'm like, I am out of here. So I get up, I go out up the steps, I go outside, there's people out there, and I said, run for your lives, there's a gorilla coming. And I run down the street and I get to a Walgreens. Now I don't know if you have Walgreens where you live at, but they're like a drugstore. I ran in, and I dove behind the counter where the cashier is, and she's ringing up people's stuff, and I heard glass. I hear glass shattering. And when I peek up, it is Bob. He's coming in. As soon as he comes in, the cashier picks up the phone, and she says, run, everybody, there's a gorilla coming. And everybody just completely ran out of the store. So next, I get up and I go outside, I look down the street, and there's a bank. I figure, what a better place to hide than in a bank. So I go in the bank, I jump over the counter. Again, I hear glass just crashing all over the place. I peek up, It's Bob again. And the cashiers behind the counter said, "Everybody run for your lives! There's a gorilla coming!" Again, everybody ran out. So I jump over the counter, I get out to the street, and I run down the block, and I find a doctor's office. So I go in the doctor's office, and I hide in a closet. As soon as I get in the closet, I hear wood breaking. Next thing you know, I hear the nurses, "Everybody run for your lives! There's a gorilla coming!" So I stayed in the closet. A couple minutes later, I hear footsteps, just banging. And it comes up to the front of the door. And I look at the door handle, and the door handle starts turning. And it turns all the way around, and it falls on the floor. I'm thinking, this is it. I'm going to die here. I mean, I was shaking, I was crying. It was absolutely horrible. So anyway, Bob opens the door, and he steps in, and I'm sitting on the floor, and he's on top of me like this. And again, boogers and slobber and everything's falling off his mouth. It's hitting on the top of my head and dripping down. And then the strangest thing happened. Bob touched me on the shoulder, and he goes like that. Now, it's a good thing that I understand sign language. Now, my friend Jim told me that this was a trained circus animal. And the one thing that Bob was trained on is how to play tag. So Bob opened the door, he touched me, and he wanted to play tag. He wasn't attacking people or anything like that. That's why I was told not to touch him. So anyway, this gorilla tore up half of the town just because he wanted to play tag. Peace.